So Ahmad is gonna join us. He totally forgot it, then I called him.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. Because like yeah, I'm recording right now, so hope if it works, then I have to upload somewhere.
Okay.
I mean, because people like from all time zones, so there's no way that everyone is here. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just wait for like 3 minutes, and yeah, then I'll begin. And yeah, I'm a little bit nervous because that's my first time, giving a workshop. So it's a new experience.
I think you have had a lot of experiences, right?
Yeah.
In terms of presentations and also your PhD defense.
Yeah.
We could watch your PhD defense on YouTube. Then don't worry.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, Zhen, how are you?
Yeah,
It's
hi.
Ahmed, huh?
Yeah, Ahmed. Yeah, yeah. I recognize your voices, but
Yeah.
I didn't see you. There's actually a lot more people than I expected because like back in China, I think the time is still like very early in the morning, so I didn't expect that many people coming. Yeah. And in North America, like if you are in California, then it's like 4 p.m. So yeah, but there's a lot more people than I expected.
And also Ahmed, he is recording this video. Just I think it's good to know.
Yeah, I think it's a backup or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, if anything goes wrong at my end, so we can still have a backup. Yeah, but it's good. I really hope that we can continue this kind of workshop and seminar. So my plan is like the workshops will be like topics on certain skills like making figures, or perhaps for example, like using abacus or using ANSYS. This kind of certain skills, and I will also like hold like seminars. Seminars will be like anyone, I mean, a researcher talking about their like research and certain topics, research topics. So there will be differences like on the workshops and those seminars. Yeah. So I will be like adjusting like the structure of the seminars and workshops based on my feedback. The feedback I got from you, like so hopefully it will get better and better. Just like just like I'm making drawings like. So I will show you like today, like the figures I made like 5 years ago and the figures I made like right now. It's a huge improvements. Like so everyone can make improvements.
Nice.
Yeah. So for now, I'll just begin. So yeah, let me share my screen real quick. Yeah. So hi everyone. So now is I'll officially begin today's workshop, like on how to make professional academic figures. So I use like Da Vinci's like the famous figures as a cover. Yeah. So okay. So first I will just a little bit introduce like why I want to talk about this topic and why I'm interested in making figures and interested in combining art and science. So a little bit about me is that I was always like a child. When I was a child, like I always want to become a scientist. And I read a lot of books, like sci-fi books from Julius Verne, and also some like scientific magazines and things like I was like in elementary schools. And I also get heavily influenced by my grandparents, and they are engineers. And one of my grandpa, he is also very interested in making drawings. And so I was always interested in making drawings as well. Like I was dreaming about being an animator when I grew up. But now this dream seems to be fade away, but I really want to put some energy into making academic drawings for like our scientific societies. So actually in my junior school, I was in a class which is for the gifted kids, like which is for kids for gifted at art, like drawings and paintings. But in my high school, I was actually in a class with kids like gifted in science. So I was more like a combination of these two like seemingly different topics. So when I was like choosing for major, like when applying for colleges, and I actually chose for mechanics and arts, and as well as biology, which is three major contributing to a lot on the unemployment nowadays. But I'm good right now. So today I just in my PhD I actually goes for Professor François Basselab School, and he's working on bio-inspired architectural materials, which is related to mechanics, also related to art, and also related to biology. So I actually kind of fulfill my childhood dreams. And aside from my research activities, I was also interested in making drawings for my friends, for my girlfriend. Like this is a little bit a piece of drawings I make for my girlfriend. So anyway, so just a little bit about me, and I will begin my talk. So at first, I want to introduce a little bit on the general concept of graphical arts. I mean, graphical arts is like they have a long history, like ever since humans probably knows how to making fire. We are starting to making drawings on the cave. And for example, there's a very famous the Van Gogh's like Starry Night, the post-impressionist paintings. And also we have like Picasso's more like abstract paintings, and also like in China, like we have like the Shuimuo paintings, which is a traditional art, and the traditional East Asia like art is also has a huge influence on the impressionist like drawings as well. But in nowadays, as the digital paintings, the development of digital paintings, more and more people and artists are working on their artworks using computers. This is digital painting, digital hand paintings. This is a famous illustrator in China. And so that's basically like the general graphic arts. But however, so the academic figures, sometimes you cannot exactly consider it as graphic arts because comparing to like paintings and illustrations, it gives us like less the space for imaginations, because graphic arts has to be accurate and transfer a clear message. But there's a lot of overlap between graphic arts and also academic figures, and it actually dates back to very ancient times. For example, like and for example, in China, like there's a very famous book called 天工开物, which is a book talking about the science and technology and all those techniques in China. And then we can find out a lot of these kind of little figures in this book, and talking about how we make metals. For example, this figure is actually talking about how we make metals, and how we make paper, and how we make all kinds of like chemistry and engineering topics. And also there are many famous is Leonardo da Vinci's notebook. He actually draw very nicely on human autonomy, and also draw about some engineering inventions he had in mind. And nowadays, this is an example of my from my drawings in my papers. And we also have a lot of academic figures, especially nowadays, a lot of people working on the scientific research, and all those figures are actually very important actually in our research public, in our research, part of our research. We publish stuff with those academic figures, and when we do conference presentations, we need those. And it's a great way actually to transfer our messages on our research, and also attract audience to actually get interested in our research or interested in funding our researches. And those are very nice. No, I'm not saying mine is nice, but it's actually not bad. And there's also like a piece of academic figures I really like, which is from Professor Zhen Yin group. They actually, this one is talking about like artificial neuron sensors. And so you can see that many like in the ancient times, many those kind of artists is also like inventors, and they make very nice drawings. And there are certain overlap, and I want to like comparing these two, academic graphic arts and academic figures. So this is a very famous graphic drawings, which is Girl with Balloon by Bansky. This piece is just getting destroyed by Bansky itself because probably he wants to increase the value of these drawings. But you know, but in general, like graphical arts, they are very emotional. So so if you look at these figures, these pictures, you don't know like what exactly the meaning of that. You have an emotional, but sometimes the message is vague because you don't know what's the exact messages he wants to transfer. So is that girl like wants to catch the balloon, or is the girl wants to release the balloon? So we don't know that, but it gives you an impression, and that impression is often emotional. But for academic figures, we are always rational. So we want to show exactly what we want to show to the audience, and we don't want any vague messages transfer or causing some misunderstandings to the audience. So the messages has to be clear and accurate. So I think between these two, there's a huge difference, but there's also a lot of similarities. For example, the techniques we use. I mean, when composing drawings, graphic drawings, graphic art, we always put a lot of emphasis on how we do the composition, how we choose the color, and how we choose the tools to actually make those arts. But as for academic figures, we actually will be considered the same thing: composition, color, and the tools we are using to actually making those academic figures. And in terms of the purposes, we actually have essentially we have the same thing. We want to tell good stories to the audience. Like we want to transfer our messages, no matter it's an emotional message or a rational messages on the audience. So we can use a lot of those techniques and the skills we use on graphical arts on academic figures as well. So the first, I want to classify academic figures because there are different kinds of academic figures. For example, schematic. Schematic is where we actually show our concepts and show some, for example, better show how the mechanism and all those things. It does not has to be accurate, but it has to be accurate enough to show what's the concept and what's the messages. And I think schematic is the closest form in academic figures that close to graphic arts. And also we have charts to show all these kind of curves and properties, and property chart and property maps such as that. And also we have analytical and computational models, and with those graphs, contours, and those are another type of commonly used elements in academic figures. And also we are always show experimental results, which will be the real photos. Either it is from microscopic photos, or it is from just a camera, like high-speed camera or anything. So for each of these kind of classifications, we will use different techniques to actually achieve those and different tools. So actually, like before I get into the next section, I will just like let you guys decide which one is actually better. Is the left one for this like schematic? Is the left one better or the right one better? I mean, in terms of visual effects, this one has a very nice 3D effects with shadowing, diffusive lights, and everything. And so in terms of visually, it's pretty nice. I mean, right? But the right one is just very simple and 2D arts. I mean, it's no such fancy visual effects and no just very simple 2D, and with the color is not, I mean, the color is not like chosen by the artist apparently. So it's not like in terms of visual beauty, it's not that great. But which figure is better for academic purposes? I would say it's the right one, because both figures talk about the sliding mechanism in nacre in such a biological materials. And but this figure also very simple, and in terms of visually is inferior, but it actually talks very nicely and very clearly on what the mechanism is like. And people, when they saw these pictures, they know that. But these figures, although it's visually better, but the message itself is kind of vague. Just looking at this figure, I don't know like what the message is about, and I may have some misunderstandings on what actually happens about the sliding mechanisms. So that brings the most important requirements for academic figures. It has to be clear, and sometimes it means simple, and it has to be very accurate without causing any misunderstandings. And visual effects is actually secondary, and it is actually a method we are actually serving for the most important purposes. And so I will talk about how we can get, first I will talk about how we can get a clear message through all the visual, like the composition and everything. So first, like you know, when we publish on a paper or we do a conference presentations, we'll not only have one figures, but a lot of figures in a sequence. And that means that all flow of the figures, and which shows the logic of you, the logic thinking of you, is very important. So using my 2019 paper as an example on puncture-resistant nickel-like glass. So the first figure will be the concept, like what it is, the structure and the fabrication. So it's the concept. It means what. The second picture actually shows how, like how it performs in a low rate punctures. But when people getting on this stage, they will ask like why it is like that. So the third picture we'll then talk about the mechanism, which is why. And then like people will also like keep on asking like then so what? Then what's the application and those things. So the last picture will be on high strain rate punctures. So which is apply those mechanisms on high strain rate scenarios. So this is very simple: what, how, and why. And so this is a very like generic like logic flow of the figures we should compose when we're doing a papers or conference presentations. So people will easily follow your logic and easily follow your message. And you probably noticed that in the previous slide, I actually conclude within only 1 or 2 words for each figures. So this is actually very important, because sometimes we want to compile too many messages in just one figure, and it's become very messy, and people sometimes getting lost. And for example, I actually show you some old draft figures I used before. I made before. So this figure I actually talk in this old version. I talk about like many things. For example, the test configurations and the performance in low strain rates, the scenarios, and the performance in high strain rate scenarios, and the mechanism, and another kind of mechanism all together in this one figures. So none of those messages was transferred smoothly and clearly, and people is getting lost, like what is going on there, and what you want to say in this figure. So in the later figure, so you notice that this is version 8, which is a very early version, and in version 24, and I made a huge change. So I split these figures into 2 separate figures. I mean, each one focuses on only one topic. So in the final version, it broke into 2 figures. This one is talking about low strain rates performance only, and this one talk about mechanism only. And each figure getting more clear and without misdirect and confuse the audience. And this is actually important if you are publishing on very high impact journals, the editor will always ask you to put a conclusion for each figures only in one sentence. So for example, on science, you will have a title page for each figures, and you have to be concise and very simple. That's the point. So one thing at a time, and you have to transfer you have to make the message very clear. So that's about the overall flow of the figures. And another important thing about transferring very clear message is about figure composition. So first, I can show you like how we can how we do the drawing composition when we draw something. So this is a very balanced composition. So it is not too heavy on the left side. It's not too heavy on the right side. And everything was put in a very nice way. You feel comfortable in this way. So, but therefore, sometimes it will be unbalanced. We put too many objects in the right side and very little things in the left side. So the figure will look very unbalanced. It will looks heavy on the right side. And sometimes you put like the object is too small, or sometimes the object is too large. So it also feels odd in this kind of scenario. So it is actually the same for academic figures. You want to use the composition to compose it nicely so that people can actually follow you what is important, and without getting distracted or getting feel that this figure looks odd and what you want to try to say. I use like an example of what I did like before. And so this is like on one of my papers, and I was talking about different structures in biological materials, seashells and fish and shrimp. And there's actually good things and bad things about this figure. And the good things is I purposefully put these three elements in three columns and with a little bit of triangles, so that the overall composition looks relatively balanced, and the spacing is not too large and not too small. But there's some bad things about it, because you can see that the background here is too, pump out, so that actually I want to show those three animals here, but it's kind of lost in the background. So there's some bad things that I did for the figures. So because like we have to remember like the purpose of having good composition is we have to guide the audience to follow the message through the composition, and with composition to emphasize on what are important, and also be visually comfortable. And there's actually different ways to check your composition. First, you can adjust the spaces between objects and just feel like if it is too unbalanced or too heavy on one side. And you can zoom in and zoom out on certain subfigures or elements in your figures. And you just can move objects around. So this actually requires some experience, but I think one way to do it is keep on practicing. And the other way is to actually look at other people's figures and to analyze why it is bad or what is good and what is bad. I think gradually you will gain some experience on that, but it's very important. And another thing about figure composition is on the subfigures. I think it's close to a lot of comics, because we have a lot of subfigures in one page or in one figures. And I take like figures with 6 subfigures as example. So we can have a very conventional ways, like a very conservative ways of configure it, which is totally all right. I mean, which is good. I mean, there's no risk in that. Sorry. And there's a landscape one. We can do like 2x3 or 3x2 landscape or portrait composition. And we can always do a landscape with focus. For example, if we want to reinforce, like emphasize on one of the figures, we can make it relatively larger. And then people will, when they saw these pictures, they will first saw these figures, and then we will get a very strong impressions on the message you want to transfer, the core message you want to transfer here. But there's some bad examples. First, it's too misaligned. I mean, it is true that in many like academic figures, like a lot of our simulation or experimental results, they are not like because we are getting it from different software or different tools. So the subfigures may not be exactly the same size. So there might be some a little bit misalignment. That's actually all right. But don't make the figures too misaligned. So people will just feel like it's very uncomfortable to see. And also, it don't be too loose, because if you're too loose and it's actually with very little little information, but it occupies a very large spaces in your paper. And also, don't be unbalanced. The same as I just talked about in some bad examples of composition. So there are many tools that we can make those compositions, adjust the compositions of our figures. So the one I'm always using is a Microsoft PowerPoint. So it's very simple and very easy to use. So some people might think it is not very professional as comparing to some other like professional image processing software, but it's actually pretty powerful because you can edit your texts and moving all the elements around. And I think most importantly is that you actually have a slice in your PPT, and so that it's more like a storyboard. When you go through all the slides, it actually tells you a story, and you can see all those slides simultaneously. And this is very important to form the overall flow of your paper structure and figure structure. And also, we can use Inkscape or GIMP or Photoshop or Illustrator. I know people are always using that, which is fine, as long as you can get a good overall flow of the figures and a good composition of each figures you have. So, and I want to show you some examples because previously I was always talking about how we can transfer a clear message and the ways to get a clear message. So, but now I want to talk about the importance of visual effects, although I say it is secondary, I mean, in the academic figures. I mean, the lab figures, I found it online, like my girlfriend sent me, like it's very interesting. And at first, I had a hard time believe that it is actually from a published paper, because this is more like a doodle from like a 10 years old kid or something, like 5 years old kid. And but it's actually published. But is it good? It is actually pretty good because it transfers a very clear message. Like I know this is a wire or a sensory system, and probably getting some signals into the brain, stimulated brains. And so it's very clear. I know this is a human head. I won't think something else. But there are some better examples on this kind of academic figures. These pictures actually talks about similar stuff, but it is very, in terms of visually, it's more appealing, and you can actually follow through the different the messages they want to transfer. It's also very clear and also very simple. There's not it's not messy at all. And so the functions of the visual effects is actually also the same. It's want to help improve the messages transfer and to show the audience that you are serious about your research and you have a professional attitude. And also it's to help the audience relax, because sometimes when people see a messy figures, doing research sometimes can be stressful, and you really want to see some nice figures instead of some messy figures, and to focus on when reading your work. Because if you have very messy figures, and people may just lose patience on reading your work. So that's the importance of the visual effects. So another general concept is the art style you choose for the visual effects. There are different schools of making art: realism and impressionism, and sometimes this is some other ones. Someone is abstract, very abstract, and someone is a bit realistic and colorful. Something is twisted. It doesn't matter. I mean, everyone has its own like unique art styles, so it does not really matter. But in most of the cases, you have to try to keep your figure art styles in your paper or in one figure consistent. So just using one style overall. So otherwise, the figure may look kind of like unfinished based on my experience. If you use a very abstract style and a very realistic style combining together, the figure looks very unfinished. And sometimes the figure looks very odd. And this an examples on one of the two draft figures I made. So the first one is the very early version, and you can see that the seashell is relatively in an abstract, very simple style, but the tablet is in a very relatively realistic style. And so this figure at first, I feel like it's a bit odd and kind of distracting sometimes. So I made some changes. I made the seashell a little bit more realistic. And so the overall style and also the color, which is important, matches with the with this kind of the below the realistic model below. And I also changed the lights. So that's you can see the huge difference between these two figures. Although I only make the art style a little bit different. And also, like I talked about color, like before previously, and so I wanted color is also very important in making your academic figures. So there are different color models that can represent a color. So and I choose like two categories of most frequently used color models. The one is RGB mode. This one is RGB models, which by mixing red, green, or blue, these three primary colors to form the colors we are using. And the other one is HSL, which is hue, HSL and HSP color model. And we have hue, saturations, and lightness or brightness. I mean, this is another one which is I personally use. And so I will talk about why I use this. And so the HSP color models can actually put in color wheel. And we can divide this color space into 4 sections. So the hue, which means the actual color of this color. So how do I put it? It means this color is red, or this color is blue, or this color is green. So it's the basic color. And this axis meaning the brightness of the color, and this axis meaning the saturation. Saturation meaning the grayness. So the higher the saturation, the more colorful your color is, and the lower the saturation, the more gray it feels for your color. And I actually choose these 4 points in these 4 sections, and you can see the colors here. So my personal preference is that I always choose the color from the left side, because the left side gives you a certain grayness to your pictures, to your color. And this is like, in my personal view, it is more elegant and more graceful. So it will not as high contrast as sharp as the right one. So that's my personal choices. And the right side for me is just too colorful. But it does not mean that you cannot use the right side. I mean, some cases you can even use those colors, making very nice looking figures. But I just do not recommend it personally, because I never use this right side of colors. And so I just give examples on one of the figures I make for my paper. And this is the figure 1 in my paper. And so that's the reason I actually choose a lot of cold color, gray, which is a gray purple, a purple gray. It's the same. I mean, because I personally like cold color because it gives people peaceful mind, peaceful feelings, and peaceful impressions. And that is especially important when your paper is rated by the reviewer. When the reviewer sees the pictures, it gives him like a peaceful impression and help him calm down. a little bit. So it might help him to be nice. But only the cold color and the gray color is not enough. We need to have a very relatively good cold and warm color contrast. But we need to have a dominant color first, and then we can have some contrast. The contrast is contributed by the warm color seashells, warm color lasers, and warm color polymer interlayers. It gives like the whole pictures a nice contrast and a certain vitality. So it's more vivid in this way. So, and a number of colors, of course. So try not to use too many different colors in one figure. First, it's very distracting, and because people think colors and it's kind of messy around, so it's not good for academic figures at least. And also, like too many colors is just the overall figures look very messy and just distracting the people. Yeah. So this is about color. So I just generally you can try it using the color wheel I just talked about, and you might have gotten some like your personal preference on which color to use. And I personally choose like a grayish colors, which is good for academic papers. And another about visual effects is people are talking about a lot about on the vector and bitmap graphics. So always like you will hear people saying that I always recommend vector format, but is that true? I mean, for vector format, the greatest advantage is that it can scale without quality loss, and it usually contributes to a relatively small file size. But the thing is, the drawback is that it's always difficult to control the shape in the vector format. In the vector format, and they have limited color depths. And it only works well with a 2D schematic in most of the cases. If you are not very experienced, then it's only suitable for 2D schematic. But for bitmap graphics, although it scale, when you scale it, it has some quality loss. But it's very easy to control the shape and it has very rich color depths, and it works for all scenarios, no matter you want to work for the schematic, or you work for the an accurate simulation result or experimental result or different charts. It always works. Or 3D graphics, it always works. So my personal answer, so it depends. So because in most of the cases when you publish, as long as the resolution is high enough, for example, larger than 300 dpi, you actually will not tell the difference. You just look at it. You will not tell the difference between a back graphic and a bitmap graphic. And most of the cases, because in academic figures, we have a different result from different sources, schematic, experiment, and a lot of those sources are actually has to be bitmaps. And when you put all those things together, it doesn't matter, because when you zoom, even you zoom in a vector format, you are always seeing those pixels for the external result. So it highly depends. But to make sure that you have a very high resolution if you have a bitmap format. What I recommend is larger than 300. This can control in basically all kinds of image processing software. So tools for vector graphics. I personally use Inkscape. Actually, I never use Illustrator. I mean, I use it like probably several times, but I don't use it quite often because it's not free. And Inkscape is a free software, and it basically has all the functions like Illustrator has. And it's very small and require less hardware requirements. So the only drawback is like occasionally quite unstable. But I think now it was upgraded to the official version. So I think that this issue will be much better. And the other case is because if all your colleagues are using Illustrator, then Inkscape most often cannot open the files from Illustrator. That's a problem. But if you are working alone for your figures, then Inkscape would be my recommended choices. So there are some examples I use in Inkscape to draw the vector graphic graphs. This is the chart I draw. So the curves are actually plotted in Python. And I actually put some these little nice figures like using Inkscape. And this is like a paper I wrote before, and all those figures in here, no matter it is 3D or 2D, are always did in Inkscape, done in Inkscape. And also those 3D ones, is also by Inkscape. But I do not recommend using a 2D Inkscape, those kind of vector graphic software, to actually do 3D graphics, because at times it's very the work will be very intensive. I mean, you will put a lot of time on making one nice figures, which does not worth it, because there are a lot of very nice 3D graphic software, which I will talk about later. So there's always a lot of tools for bitmap graphics. Everyone knows Photoshop, so I will not talk about it. It is not for free. So actually, there's a very good alternatives to bitmap graphics. For example, GIMP and Krita and Medibang Paint. Most of you people might know that GIMP, but GIMP is a very free and open source, which actually offers basically the same functions as Photoshop. But sometimes it's not very user friendly, but overall it's good. And Krita and Medibang is actually a little bit different. It actually offers the purpose of these two software. It is more for digital hand drawings. So it has very nice brushes, but overall it lacks image manipulations as comparing to GIMP and Photoshop. So it highly depends on what you use. I always use a combination between GIMP and Medibang Paint, but be cautioned that except for schematics, you never use image processing software to actually change your result or something. All the image manipulation can only be used globally. So this is actually a requirement for a lot of for basically all the journals. So you don't do local manipulations, you only do global manipulations, except for schematics. For example, change the brightness or change the contrast, that's all right. But do not change locally, not use some stamp brush or something. So that's actually cheating. So it's not good. Yeah. So this is some examples of my bit graphic examples. This is I just showed, like this is it's all drawn in Medibang Paint, and then I compose it using a PowerPoint. So it's actually pretty nice using just two very simple tools. And this is another figures I drew for a friend, like for his poster. And this is all by Medibang Paint. I mean, sometimes those, like if you do hand drawings, it will require some drawing skills. But in terms of image manipulations or image like crop or change the contrast or things like that, it is all right. It's good to use. But it's always fun to practice your drawing skills. I mean, it is actually, for me, it's actually one way to help me relax from very intensive research work. To do that, this is especially the case. I actually do some photorealistic because I was really tired back then. I still remember that. So yeah. So and also for 3D graphics, there's a lot of tools for 3D graphics. And for engineering students or science or people in science field, we always know like some CAD software, which is SolidWorks, Creo, or CATIA. And those actually, which is good, is that most of institutes, they actually buy at least one of them, like SolidWorks or Creo. And they offer parametric design, which is very solid and very rigorous. But their rendering functions and rendering quality is very limited, as far as I tell. The Blender is actually using in the movie industry, game industry, and it's free and open source, which is good, and it's totally free. And that's my personal favorites. And it can also create a very complex 3D architectures and rendering, and has a lot of rendering functions. So the only drawback, I think, it is different from SolidWorks, this kind of parametric design software. So it might you might encounter some deep learning curves. But so some tips for researchers is that you want to make designs, then you can actually first in SolidWorks or Creo or CATIA, you actually build the STL file, and then you can import it to Blender and do the rendering. That's sometimes the way I do. And there's a lot of, actually Blender has a very large community, so you can learn a lot of different things from YouTube only, like Tutorial4U, Blender Guru, and Blender official channels. You can always get those learning materials from them, and it's actually not easy to, not difficult to learn if you actually follow their tutorials. And this is some examples when I was using Blender. So this for a very like simple models, like for academic figures, for example, bending tests and some cuttings and applying tape and some mechanism figures, very simple figures. And you can see that in terms of the style, it's very nice, and it actually takes much less time if you do it using like if you are using like vector graphic software like Inkscape. So this kind of Blender, like those 3D modeling software, will save you a lot of time on making those 3D models. And those are some more complicated graphics I made for using Blender. So for example, a bullet hitting a hexagonal pattern on glasses, and this is animation, and also laser engraving on trench on glass. And also this is like a conceptual, which is not academic purposes, but it is also shows the power of Blender. And this is like a demo. It's not a demonstration. It's like a cover I made for my project. So everything here is modeled. It's not it's not a photo. It's everything is modeled. But you know, you can do anything you want. You can do something that you cannot do with cameras, because with Blender you can just making photorealistic things very easily. So also I noticed that there are a lot of like people in the scientific community, they are colorblind. I don't know why, but they are actually colorblind. So it might be for them it might be difficult that to actually pick the colors. But don't worry, actually, because myself, when I was learning drawings when I was a little kid, the teacher actually told me this kid has a very, not colorblind, but kind of bad sense of colors comparing to other kids. So actually all those figures I draw, I start with grayscales. So you may not notice that. So I always start with grayscales, which is totally fine, because many great artists in history, or great scientists in history, they're always using grayscales and or monotone pictures. The tips is that you always choose a primary tone. For example, this one, the primary tone is more light, and then you have a black one to do the contrast. So the important tip is to adjust the contrast, and I keep on practicing is one of my tips, because you have to get a sense of what kind of contrast and what kind of ratio, the balance between the dark and light colors. So just keep practicing. So what else do art and science have in common then? So this is a drawing process I actually have for my project for a friend. And you can see that I always start with an overall plan, which is very crude. And I gradually actually paste steadily on each sections and adding colors, and finally I work on very little details. So this is actually similar to when I was working on projects, on research projects. I always start with an overall plan, and I was thinking on what kind of sections, what to design each experiments or simulations or analytical model, roughly, not in a very detailed way from the beginning. And then I actually start with more detailed ones later on. And actually, the most of the time is actually put on preparation stage, and which is similar to drawing a pictures. So I think philosophically, like I think art, science, and engineer are actually all discoveries and recreations of nature. So I think deep in logic, like in philosophy, there actually has some similar philosophies. We can always apply what we learn from making art to actually making science. So this I want to show, like we can always get better. I mean, although this workshop is more aiming at to give people a general understandings on what kind of picture is good. And I didn't talk about too many details but I gave you all the resources and all the guidance on how to make you better in my personal views. And you can see it from back in 2015. These figures I made, and that's 2019, the figure I made. Actually, there are some improvements on the skills I have, and some like changes. So back in 2015, I always put too many details in academic figures, which is very distracting. But now my style is totally different, and which is I personally think is a better style, and which is simple and to emphasize on the most important messages. And also the art style itself is getting better. So anyway, what I want to trying to say is that we will all get better on everything. So yeah, that's my point. Thank you.
Very nice presentation.
Thanks, Zhen. Thanks.
Very nice presentation, man.
I was getting a bit nervous when
no.
So
it summarized everything. In fact, I like drawing on a grayscale. Like I have some of my personal drawings that I do. It's only on pencil and paper. That's it.
Yeah. So anyway, like I think like I finished. So everyone can unmute and join the discussion. If you have any questions, for sure, yeah, please let me know. Sorry, I just had my dinner, so I was kind of,
Zhen, I really enjoyed your presentation, and it was very useful for me, really. Yeah. And thank you so much. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So anyone because this presentation is more on the general structure of how you make figures. But if anyone of you have some like technique details to ask and some questions, you're always welcome to ask me. Like I will give you my personal experience on how to make on the details on how to make figures. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that a software that would compete with Inkscape is Visio. Have you tried Visio?
Which one?
Visio.
No, I never use this one.
Yeah, it's not for art, more of putting things together, and it's good for organization. It's like PowerPoint, but more advanced.
Okay.
It's under Microsoft.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I made in my thesis, I remember I made a figure on the history of materials.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, that one I made it on Visio.
Oh, I see. Because actually, there's I forgot to mention there's limitations on PowerPoint because
exactly.
the default resolution of PowerPoint when you export figures is limited.
How much is it?
No,
but you can increase it.
Yeah,
I can increase it from another way. Like I changed some resolution files. I can change it to.
Exactly.
But I actually play around with that, and I noticed that there's still limitations depending on your screen monitor resolutions.
Yeah,
that's very tricky because I sometimes using kind of low resolution computers with some low resolution monitors, and the highest it can go is like 200 dpi, which is not that great.
No, in fact, I managed to reach with about 1,500 dpi.
Yeah, Ahmed, he's talking about the quality of the monitor, and it comes back from to graphic card of the computer.
Yeah, but maybe
I don't know.
I really don't think so, because
I think the highest it can go is no more than 300.
No, you can reach. I can show you a method that you can reach 1,500, and the image is very large, to be very large. Using PowerPoint.
Okay, I see. Maybe I can discuss like.
It'll be very crisp, very crisp. Yeah, and
also,
very large.
But as far as my experience so far, I mean, so far like I use 300 always, and there's no problems.
Yeah, it's decent. It's decent.
It's decent. It's still decent. I mean, people because no one reading papers like Zhen Yin, like two.
No, plus
like
the journal will ruin the quality of the pictures, even if you give them in high quality.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
I mean, like it's weird that sometimes the journal asks us like we have to get like a 300 or 600 DPI, but
Yeah, because they outsource it. They outsource the preparation of the figures to India and to these countries, and whenever they just want to finish as fast as possible, and
yeah.
they make a crappy job.
Oh yeah, that's the reason because sometimes I find out that they didn't when the final result comes out, it was actually pretty bad. I mean,
exactly.
It's even worse than what I did.
The only way to trick them is to provide them with a vectorized image.
Yeah. So
that's
why I get confused on why those journals always want vectorized, because it doesn't make sense, because we actually rasterized vector format when we submitted.
That's, by the way, that's an issue that we had. That's an issue that we had with the Najmul paper.
Yeah.
He had very nice images extracted from MATLAB, but these images were when he gave it to the journal after publishing, the pictures were pixels. I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's normal because they always rasterize the vector format. So actually, it really matters if you.
But the problem is that some journals keep it vectorized, because vectorized images are much smaller in size than rasterized.
Yeah,
which doesn't make sense why they're making it rasterized.
Yeah.
I mean, if you give it to them as rasterized, they'll dumb it even down. So if you give it them, let's say 300 DPI, on online it will be about 100 or even lower.
Yeah,
it'll be very bad. So the best thing I think is to give them in vectorized and force them. Like in my first paper, I forced them. I told them the first review that they gave it to me, I saw the images, they were rasterized. I told them, no, I gave you PDF file, you put it as PDF.
Yeah.
And then the final version was vectorized. You go to my paper, which I published in IGSS.
But it took a long time to publish.
Yeah, you have to fight with them that I want it to be vectorized.
So, Zhen, in terms of rendering, I know like Keyshot is not free, but Ahmed and we sometimes use Keyshot, and it's very useful.
I remember you recommended Keyshot before.
Yeah, you know what? I'll show you. Like Zhen, I show, and Aram, I made an image. I remember just 2 days ago. Wait, let me share my screen. It's on Keyshot. I made it using Keyshot.
Can we share screen at the same time, or?
Yeah, just to remove your sharing, I'll be able to get into mine.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have to stop my sharing, or you can just do?
Yeah,
I already stopped. I think, or you have to stop it. Yeah.
I have to stop it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keyshot also is very nice.
Yeah, this is using Keyshot. I'll show it to you.
Friendly, very useful, and powerful.
Where's share my screen? Host disabled participants. You disabled participants from screen.
Really?
I'm disabled from sharing my screen.
But how do I?
I think there is an option down on the bottom. Check it.
Oh, advanced sharing options.
Yeah.
Oh, all participants. Okay. Who can start sharing when someone else is?
I just want to show it just to prove the point with Aram, because Aram really.
I think you can do it right now.
Yeah. Where is it? Here is it. See this? I just created it on Keyshot.
Nice.
It looks nice, right?
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah, this is the architecture.
Yeah.
You choose the skin, the type of the material, and it gives you the glow that you need. Also, you can control the camera. It's like Blender, but it's more professional. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So I think Aram and I are working with Keyshot, so it's a good alternative to Blender.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, people can always try it. I mean, try different software, because essentially we are not like professional graphic designer. So yes, for us, because sometimes people, if you Google it, then people will recommend certain software over another. It is because there's a certain standard in the graphic industry, and they have to follow it. But for us, it doesn't matter. Whichever works.
Yeah, exactly. And Blender is very good because it's free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's powerful, and you made
Blender
a
is
very
free. I mean,
nice
Blender
animation.
is like the Studio Pixar. They actually use it some cases. Yeah. So it's very powerful to making movies and games and stuff.
Yeah. Also, that animation was very nice. You made that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. The bullet one. Yeah. I made it like 4 years ago.
Oh, really?
It's very nice. Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
But yeah, we learned a lot from your presentation, Zhen. I mean, especially the arrangement of the figures. Like there are different types of arrangements, and also realism, the abstract art, all these things. I had it in mind, but I was not like aware that there is like a categorization for these types of images.
Yeah, I think actually I saw a lot of like image figures, academic figures, people making those kind of figures. And there are some very common mistakes that, not mistakes, I mean, you know, it's something that they can improve is people always mix different styles, which is actually not good. I mean, in terms of visual, because actually, if you are really a master of art, you might handle it. But the thing is, like most of us are not.
It's not our job. Yeah.
So it's actually better to just use a mono style, or that way is better.
Yeah.
Another useful point for me was that, so I personally paying attention to details, and it's not good for scientific figures. And it was so I have to focus on my figures again and recreate them, because all my figures there are a lot of details, and all of them, like, they are unnecessary details, and it makes my figures messy.
Yeah. No, but this is I think maybe Zhen also can comment on top of me, on top of my comments, is that this is part of the training with Francois. Francois will clean it up for you.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, when I started, I had the same problem. Yeah,
it's actually good from a point of view from art, because you don't want to you want to focus on the really important things. So just like taking a photo, you will have a focus, and then everything else can be vague, or you know, that's fine. So just want to, you know, focus on the most important things.
Exactly.
And always like trying making figures like from a big picture, like overall structure. That might be just better. I mean, just like drawings, like all those artists, they draw starting from very rough sketch. And they actually put a lot of time on those sketches instead of the, you know, before the coloring or anything. They actually put a lot of time on making the compositions and making the sketches and those things. Actually, the same way goes when I do the drawings. I actually put a lot of times on compositions instead of the coloring and all those things.
Yeah. Zhen, I think your friend Carlos asked you a question in the chat.
Oh yeah, thanks for the host. Next time I have to choose a host, because I was very busy. Like.
Yeah. Sorry, Ahmed, I interrupt you. Go ahead.
Also, people sometimes they have the tendency of, like, whenever they do a picture, they have this a kind of resistance to changing it again and again.
Yeah. Actually,
you have always to refine it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I learned it from Elon Musk. You know, SpaceX, they do fast iterations of design. So that's what I do, like fast iterations of making workshops.
Exactly.
So back to like Carlos' questions. Like yes, I also use vacuum, but it highly depends on which type of vacuum tablet you are using. I used to have like the actually lowest end vacuum. That one is not good. That will certainly limit the drawing capabilities. And so actually later on, I transferred to another larger and more powerful tablets. That one is actually in a way close to paper and hand drawings. But you have to make in practice, because using those vacuum tablets sometimes can be slippery. I mean, so because it cannot give you exactly the roughness of papers, the texture of papers. So I think you have to keep on practicing. That's the only way to do that. And I'm not sure which tablets you are using. I mean, the one I have has a screen, so it's more like writing on a paper. But there are some other ones that do not have a screen. You have to look at your monitor and write and drawing at the same time, which requires you to train your eye and hand coordination, which is difficult sometimes. Yeah. So I hope this can answer your questions. Yeah. And there's another way is that you actually hand draw on a paper and scan it, and then use your tablet to actually, you know, trace it. And I think that might be, you know, another way to solve the problems. Yeah, that's my question. That's my answer. Yeah.
Hi, Jane. This is Shivo talking.
Yeah. Hi.
Thank you for the nice presentation. Can you give us some tips on how to obtain a good rendering effect on the 3D schematics in Blender for paper?
Yeah, actually, I can share the screen probably again, and I can jump back to the 3D effects.
Yes,
And
one.
so actually, like I always choose some more realistic and more graphically appealing ones. That is not necessary in a paper or in a conference. I think for academic drawings, this one is good enough. Actually, to achieve this kind of simple, but in a way a little bit realistic style for papers, you actually require some special light. And the light is very important in making those 3D renderings if you're using Blender. For this one, actually, not only I have light from top. I usually have like probably I can send you the configurations I have, but I always use lights like more diffusive light in a certain angles from top. Yes. And but for those figures, I also have a light from not a light from bottom, but I actually did some tricks on the background. The background can, in a way, is super bright.
Emitting panel?
No. The background. I mean, the panels is normal color, but I also making there's a background, right? The background means that it's on the ground. Something is on the ground, but this ground actually makes some tricks. It's not actually a normal ground with normal material settings. It is actually I made some visual change, but I don't really remember the configuration. I will check and probably send it to you. And it makes the ground very bright when you do the rendering.
Okay.
And then it's not emit light, but it will affect the visual appearance of your models. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important because sometimes I use a light emitting panel as a background, but that causes a lot of shadow on my object, so that's not good, I guess.
Yeah.
Your matter. Yeah, I will look into it if you could send.
Yeah, that's why I will have very light shadows on my figures.
Yeah,
because and also the light, because I always use more than two lights, two side ones and one top ones. So that will eliminate the light as well. But you always
eliminate the shadow also.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, yeah.
And also, sometimes when after drawing a 3D schematic in Blender, I show to my supervisor is that looks like realistic, but it's not good for paper. So I'm not sure how realistic should I render, or like what's the, because here, if you look into the details of your model, it still has the very real characteristics, but for the general rendering effect, it won't remind people of a real object. It's still a schematic. So this part I'm not sure. Maybe I'm still not doing very good, because every time I render in Blender, it's always like I'm trying to render to a more realistic effect, and then it's not good for the paper.
Yeah, I think first you don't have to apply for. Did you apply textures for those models? Like first you don't have to apply for textures, otherwise it makes the figure doesn't look suitable for academic publications. And also another thing is that I always use the most simple material model in Blender, but I combine those simple models, material models together. So the one I use always using diffusive one and also glossy one. Glossy one is, for example, here. I will show you. The glossy one I will always show here is for the metal, like metal, and the glossy more metal ones. And so the diffusive one, and there's a diffusive model and also like a transparent model. So I will usually combine these two to make all those things. So it's very simple, and it will give you like a certain realistic style, but it will not overdo it. I mean, but the thing is that's for papers. But if you want to do some cover for your work, then you might, to impress like the broader audience, you might want some more realistic one. That's the style using here. So for these ones, I will use more complex material models to accurately reflect all the things I want, and I also apply textures and also apply a local displacement and all those kind of things to make the visual effects I want. Actually, there's very good like tutorials. One is called Blender Guru. You can check their channels. He actually make very nice tutorials on Blender.
Can you?
Blender Guru is here. You can take a note.
Just subscribe.
Okay.
Yeah, Blender Guru. And also Blender official channels. These two, you can always look at it. I mean, they have, especially for Blender Guru, I learned a lot of like tricks and skills from him actually.
Okay.
Thank you, Zhen.
Zhen, I have a question, and maybe during my question and sharing a file, there is a point about the texture for if you provide the texture in the scientific figure, then it can have a meaning on it. So I'm gonna share a file.
Oh yeah.
Then
can you share it right now?
I'm just gonna send the file to the using the chat.
Oh, okay, yeah, great.
Chat.
That's another great way to do that.
Yeah. Then Farzan is here, and I made this figure, and it would be great if you tell us your opinion about that first. Then if you open it, I can explain the figure and justify why we use the texture for this figure.
Can you guys see the figures right now?
I've seen this before.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
this is not too bad actually.
Yeah.
I mean, the texture is not too complicated, so it's all right.
So the reason we used this texture was that we every time in the manuscript of the paper we said, for example, these two specimens are good for geomaterial and rock materials.
Yeah.
Then we try to like have a schematic kinds of marble material for our specimens. That's why we use the texture. And with this, all readers can see that yes, these two specimens can be useful for geomaterials, for example.
Oh yeah, I see. Yeah.
I think. Do you like this figure? I just want to ask.
I really like it because it's not too much details, so it's not distracting. Yeah. But I think there's enough details that shows like what kind of materials you are working on, and so that's pretty nice actually.
I like it.
Okay.
I really like it.
So,
yeah.
Okay, it's good.
This is, by the way, this is in Keyshot, huh?
This is Inkisha.
I'm a Blender supporter.
Aram and I are Keyshawn support.
like Ahmed, like ANSYS and Abacus.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
the ANSYS guy, and
I'm the
Abacus
guy, and you guys are Abacus guy. But I'm transferring to Abacus as well because I see a lot of people using Abacus.
I'm all over the place. I'm now
Abacus
using
is
console.
good.
You know that?
Abacus is good. Abacus is.
This is Zhen Yang. Yeah, Zhen Yang, you are a good supporter.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Anyways, Zhen, I have to leave. I have an appointment after 10 minutes. I have to prepare myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I really thank you for your presentation. It has been very useful and fruitful. I mean, I've learned a lot, and we'll stay in touch. We'll talk more about it next time.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much, Zhen.
Yeah. Next time
Bye,
I will
guys.
organize probably how to use Abacus. Using Abacus with Python script. Something like that.
Yeah. That's very nice.
Also, this is just a suggestion. Maybe Ahmed also can present something for us because he has a lot of good materials to present.
Yeah, great. Why not?
You mean on Abacus?
No, you have a lot of good topics to.
Yeah, of course. But,
great.
Let's
I think that will be a seminar kind of thing.
Yeah. I was talking about the seminar. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So guys, have a good night. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Yeah. See you.
See you around.
Bye.
Yeah. See you.
Bye.
So Zhen, I gotta go too. Zhen?
Yeah.
I got to go.
Okay, see you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, and thanks a lot for your all efforts, really.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I'm trying to do some little contributions.
You have had a lot of contributions so far. So thanks a lot, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah, be in touch.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
see you.
Bye.
Bye. So anyone else has some questions to follow? And discussions?
Can I ask you something?
Yeah, sure.
I wanted to know that if you're planning to continue this kinds of workshop about figures and how to make figures for scientific papers, or do you have any plans for like streams for, or you're gonna go to other subjects, for example, Abacus?
My current plan is actually for each workshop there will be more like introduction kind of things. So I will for different workshops. For my current plan is to having different subjects. For example, this one will be making figures, and another one will be, for example, using Abacus with Python script or machine learning or something like that. But that will highly depending on the feedback, like from the audience. Like if the audience requires to having another episode of making figures, then I will do it. So yeah.
Because I think this was a very good experiment, at least for me, and I really enjoyed the content. I think it's to actually continue this and like having a session about how to like create a figure from the base. I mean, you have data, you wanna like paint a simple chart. What is the 0 to 100 path you take? What kind of chart you select? How to choose the colors, and really maybe paint a simple chart from scratch. And that's the way we can really learn how a pro like you think and makes these figures.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because for this one it's more like a general ones, and maybe like based on your suggestions, which is a very good suggestions, maybe we can focus on one topic or one software. For example, how to make like a property chart, and then I will focus on using one software, giving examples, and everyone else can follow with that. I think that might be a case that we can do it.
Yes, because your graphs were both simple and pleasing to the eye. So I really wanted to know how you think when you want to create them. So
okay, yeah, I think so, yeah. So I think that's a very good suggestion. I will either do I may not be able to live stream yet, like as a Zoom meeting, but I might be able to record it at home and then I upload it to YouTube and then share it to everyone. That might be another way to do. Because sometimes I don't know if I can. I'm a little bit less confident, with live stream.
You're great.
Yeah. So yeah, and also Shibo actually gave another very good piece of suggestions. Is that I have a personal website, and probably I just post something like on my personal website as well. Yeah. So anyway, I will actually if I do anything related like on these academic topics, I will upload it to Twitter, to LinkedIn, and all those social media platforms, as well as in my on my website, so everyone can know that. Yeah.
Sweet. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
I gotta go. Thank you again, Zhen, for this workshop. I really enjoyed it, and it's very useful. Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I see you. Yeah, and thanks so much. Like because I know it's like 4 a.m. in probably 3 a.m. in Iran. So yeah, it's really nice for you to come here and support me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Hello. Salam. Merci.
So yeah, so anyway, like anyone have because this is a workshop, so I really hope that everyone can give their own like thoughts and on how we can improve like in general, or what kind of or any questions in the slides you can all ask me. Yeah.
Thank you, Zhen. So I saw you were recording the video, so you're gonna post them on YouTube later?
Oh yeah, I will do it. I probably will do some editing. I cut some,
okay.
A little bit, but then I will post it on YouTube for sure. I try to make sure the whole content is on YouTube, but depends. I will actually, watch through and see if any awkward moment. I will.
Okay. Thank you, Zhen. Hope to see you soon next workshop.
Yeah. See you. Yeah. Probably like next time will be a seminar, but I will contact the speakers and to settle it down. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thanks for support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So anyone has questions? Yeah. If no one has,
Hi Zhen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was like, we haven't.
Yeah. So sorry, I missed the first part.
Yeah, it's all right. Do you want to go through the slides real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, because it's a workshop. It's not a seminar, so it's very freestyle.
Okay. Casual.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking if it's possible in the future, then that different people can give different talk on their like expertise. Maybe
for sure.
Aram can give presentation about how to use DEM.
Yeah, that's what I have in mind. Exactly what I have in mind.
Yeah.
So the workshops, for sure, I will not be the only one who give talks, because otherwise it will be too overwhelming for me. So, but in the future, I will have different people coming, and each one, for example, I know you are really good at using Abacus, so it might be possible that you can just share your experience with Abacus or some other topics as well. which is possible because I know there are a lot of people knowing alpacas very well.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it might be possible that we do a alpaca series and each one talk about one type of problems. So for example, you can do some hyperelastic models, like adhesive models and things like that. And Aram can do composites for like this kind of analysis. And Ahmed can do Python scripting or something. That's what I have in mind. And also for the figures, and we can do I probably can invite some really expert on graphic people to actually talking about certain software. I mean, if I can actually find them, I mean, and they are interested in giving the talk. So I'm still planning for that. And also, like I might be getting like for example, statistical mechanics 101 or something like that. Thermodynamics 101, like the introduction to thermodynamics or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, because I know people, so I probably can send them emails. For example, I think that would be great to do actually. Yeah. So that's what matters. I mean, I really want your feedback, your guys' feedbacks, because then in this way I can improve myself. Yeah. So great. So yeah. Anyway, this is my slides.
Okay.
Because when it's on YouTube, you probably will check it. You can check it again. But it's just some random pictures. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if no one has questions and or want to discuss more, then I will just like stop today's workshop and see you in the next workshop or seminar. So okay. Yeah. See you everyone. So I will counting down 3, 2, 1, and I will stop today's workshop. 3, 2, 1.
See you, Zhen.
Bye bye. See you.
Thank you, Zhen.
Yeah. You too. Take care.